Understory, we begin in this field in southeast Portland. Now, while it may look like I'm standing in a patch of wildflowers, these are actually invasive plants, and conservation experts are trying to control them. So what makes these plants a danger to our forests, and what you can do to help? It's our big story tonight.
It's a little bit of a walk.
In southeast Portland.
So we are going up to the Buttes Natural Area.
An area of city forest that conservationist Michelle Delapine knows well.
But as you can see, we're adjacent to this really nice natural area.
On this day, it's not nature's beauty Michelle is looking for.
All the way up past the trees is all garlic mustard.
Instead, she's searching for this plant that's quietly threatening natural areas just like this one.
So this is garlic mustard. You can tell it's garlic mustard because it has triangular shaped leaves with scalloped edges. It has a white flower, it's always white, with 4 petals and cross section.
Garlic mustard thrives in the shade, choking out native plants and trees and putting the wildlife that depends on those native species at risk.
It changes the soil chemistry, so nothing else can grow there.
Michelle and her team at the West Multnomah Soil and Water Conservation District have spent years tracking down this invasive plant.
This is my 15th garlic mustard season.
Working to control it every spring since 2007.
By 2012, we had quite a large area around Forest Park, in the Johnson Creek Watershed and the Columbia Gorge.
But their efforts have paid off.
Just a few more hours. And it takes several weeks for land managers to get through the entire city.
So far, conservationists believe they've kept the plant from spreading into the Coast Range and Willamette Valley.
Dig close to the roots and loosen the soil. We want to prevent garlic mustard from establishing.
This work is funded through state grants and lottery dollars.
And in the Pacific Northwest, we have very little of it, and we're trying to keep it that way.
Unlike other parts of the country, particularly the East Coast and Midwest, where these plants have taken over entire forests where nothing else grows.
Also, it prevents other plants from germinating, even trees. And so it's really important. You can't imagine a forest without trees, can you?
The plant can be tricky to spot.
But this is a common look-alike called fringe cup, and it lacks the white flowers. Instead, it has little greenish yellow flowers at the top.
Eventually, the white petals fall off, making the plant even harder to find.
You end up with these long cylindrical seed pods.
If you're positive garlic mustard is on your property, dig it up, roots and all, and throw it out.
And if you look carefully, there's a little bend, an S-shaped bend at the bottom of the plant. And it's really easy to break this off if you just try to grasp it and pull it without loosening the soil first.
Another way to stop the spread?
Make sure to brush your boots so that there's no soil on them at all.
To get rid of any stowaway garlic mustard seeds tagging along.
Also, even when it's present in urban yards, that eventually can get to natural areas as well. So that's why it's really important to find and manage all garlic mustard across the city.
And those are just little things that we can all do to help protect the forests that are such a huge part of the Pacific Northwest. Conservation teams are out there right now trying to remove these patches of invasive garlic mustard. The plants are edible, which is perhaps the only good thing about it, but it doesn't belong here in the Northwest. If you see it either on your property or just when you're out walking or hiking, you can call the invasive species hotline. That number is 1-866-INVADER. You can also report confirmed sightings to the website there on your screen, OregonInvasivesHotline.org. Well, turning now to Portland City Hall. This week, Mayor Keith Wilson released his first proposed budget. And today, we're hearing from some city councilors about what they think of his ideas. Remember, council has to approve Wilson's plan. Last night, we broke his proposal down for you, and you can catch the full segment on our KGW YouTube channel. The mayor's total budget is $8.5 billion, and his proposal addresses the shortfall of $93 million in the city city's general fund. Arguably, the biggest impact to Portlanders will be fee hikes. 8% increase to your water bill, 5% increase to sewer and stormwater bills, and a 25% increase in parking fees. Nearly 200 layoffs are on the table. That includes some vacant positions as well. 1/3 of those job cuts are coming from Portland's Permitting and Development Agency, and 14 positions will be cut from Parks and Rec. Now, the mayor earmarked $24 million for 1,500 new shelter beds as part of his homelessness plan. That money is coming from regional government Metro and the state. And he is not making cuts to Portland Police or Fire. This year, that is. They will be asked to trim down overtime hours, totaling $2 million from each agency, starting with the next budget. Portland parks and community centers have been a hot topic. The mayor says under his plan, none will close. He wants to trim staff at some locations, increase golfing fees, and scale back so-called non-critical maintenance. That's things like cleaning restrooms, trash pickup, and playground repairs. Now, his proposed cuts to park maintenance, though, caught the attention of some city councilors who I met up with just a few hours ago. Now, we have some sound from them. Some of the councilors are really concerned about the park maintenance. They think that those cuts could be real trouble for people who enjoy going to the parks. They think it's important to remove needles and drug paraphernalia to make it so families continue using those services. Now, Councilor Eric Zimmerman, who represents District 4 on the west side of Portland, he's also the Finance Committee Chair. He says he has about $14 million of additional cuts he plans to propose, starting near the top of this new government structure.
Looking at how do we also reduce the number of administrative positions that, frankly, getting back to the transition, I don't think we've been aggressive enough of the middle and upper management cuts that I would have expected to see in this budget.
We also received plenty of feedback from many of you who reached out to us after hearing the mayor's proposal last night. James left us this voicemail about the nearly 200 cuts coming to city staff positions.
I really believe that since he is going to have to cut positions, he should cut the positions of people who do not work downtown. He has already said that he does not like remote working. He wants people to work downtown. I believe people coming downtown will help revive downtown.
There's also the mayor's proposal to raise utility rates and parking fees, something that's rubbing many of you the wrong way. This viewer wrote on our YouTube channel, they said, hike in utility bills, $24 million for homeless. It seems like he has it backwards. How will this encourage residents to stay? Invest in what you want more of. So far, it seems like we want more homeless and less families. Wow, what a disappointment. Another viewer on our YouTube channel wrote, this isn't going to work. Have to fix the crime and homeless problems within the city. I have watched this city go downhill fast, and it seems like the city government's answer is to raise the cost of living and taxes with nothing to show for it, as business and residents continue to leave this city. Now, our team wanted to know if hiking utility fees is the only financial lever being considered to raise more revenue, seeing as it would no doubt have an impact on all Portlanders. But before we get to that, we want to bring you that sound that we had a little technical glitch with earlier on in this segment. Take a listen.
I'm really concerned about parks maintenance. I think that he cut parks maintenance, and that's going to be a real trouble for people who use the parks. If we don't remove needles, drug paraphernalia, that sort of thing, it's going to discourage families from using the parks.
That cut to parks maintenance is, I think, deeper than our park system can handle if we want to have great parks for our families.
Now it's time to make sure that every park is clean, that every park restroom is open. And I've already told him that I plan to bring some pretty aggressive amendments to restore those maintenance funds in parks.
All right, so now we want to hear from Council President Ilana Prittle-Guiney, seeing if raising fees and utility rates is the only financial lever being considered to raise more revenue in the city. Listen.
One of the questions I'll be asking is about how many one-time funds we're using to balance this budget. I want to make sure that we're setting ourselves up to be stronger in the future, not setting ourselves up for deeper cuts next year.
That was Council President Ilana Prittle-Guiney. She also has some questions around that $24 million. That's what she was referring to, that the mayor got from the state and regional government Metro to pay for opening more shelter beds, and if those agencies will continue to send that money in the coming years. Now, a viewer named Michael called into us sharing a similar concern. They said they agree in principle with the things that they would like to do. I think they're very good goals, that of the mayor's, to set for the city. The thing I don't like, this is Michael, the viewer who called into us, is the use of one-time funds. He says he wishes there was a better way to fund them, but wishing and hoping are aspirational, and they're not a strategy for success, he says. Now, overall, these councilors are pleased with much of the mayor's budget proposal, especially preserving public safety. So I asked them if there was a vote today, would they vote to approve it? And here's what they said.
So if you had to vote today to approve the budget, would you approve it?
I'd fight like mad for a couple of amendments, but yes, I would.
Absolutely, I would vote to approve it.
Not yet. Councilors bring the perspective of all of our districts, and we need to do the work of making sure that our constituents' priorities are reflected before we pass the budget out.
City Council now has 4 weeks to make amendments and hear from the community before voting on the finalized budget in June. They'll need a majority to pass that final version, meaning 7 yes votes out of the 12-person council. Well, coming up, a controversial bill aimed at helping local news takes a big step forward in Salem. But one lawmaker says it could violate the state's constitution. What's next for the bill and what it could mean for your local news? That's when the story returns. A bill in Salem that would require big tech companies to pay local news outlets for sharing their work has passed out of committee and now heads to the full Senate for a vote. But at least one lawmaker says he's concerned that it violates the Oregon Constitution. Senate Bill 686 would require tech companies to pay online news providers to use their content. How much they would pay is up to the news outlet and the tech company to decide together. In a work session yesterday, 3 Democrats voted in favor, saying it is a potential solution for local news companies losing money.
You know, I think this bill addresses a huge foundational problem in our economy that goes way beyond media. This bill addresses one dimension of a phenomenon where the internet age and capabilities have turned us into an economy where the large internet platforms, those who have the data to target us and to reach us most easily, are extracting much more wealth than the creators of the product that they're selling.
Senator James Manning Jr. says he's heard from tech companies who are not happy about this bill. A similar law passed in Canada, and Meta, which owns Facebook and Instagram, has blocked news content on those platforms in that country because of it.
My office was visited by Meta and a few others, and they came in threatening. I don't like to be threatened. So I don't even talk to them. And to say that, well, if you do this, then we're going to do you like Canada. That's not how a successful corporation does business.
Republican Senator Daniel Bonham, the Senate Minority Leader, voted against the bill in committee, saying he thinks Oregon content would get blocked online, like the Canada example, and that the bill as written is unconstitutional.
It absolutely violates the Constitution, in my opinion. I am no constitutional scholar, but I've read the document and I have read our oath of office, and I don't see how we could put this forward with the explanation that we'll let the courts decide with the evidence that we have from our own paid attorneys.
Legislative Counsel testified that the bill could potentially violate free speech, and it could be considered a taking where the government takes private property. The Democratic senators on the committee said they support the bill anyway and are fine letting the courts decide on constitutionality. We'll keep following the bill to see if it advances. Meanwhile, though, a team from Washington State University is taking a bird's eye view of the local news ecosystem in the state of Washington. In their study published last month, they say the local news landscape there is a, quote, worsening crisis with dire implications for democracy. They mapped out news outlets by county in Washington. No surprise, Seattle has the most, but several counties are considered news deserts for how little coverage they have, especially in eastern Washington. Many counties there only have 1 or 2 news outlets, and 2 counties, Skamania and Ferry County, have none at all.
Local news is part of the basic civic infrastructure underpinning this country. We think of news, usually we think of major news outlets, we think of the New York Times, we think of Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, but the truth of the matter is that most of the news in this country is actually small local outlets. That is the majority of them. And without such outlets, without access to information about communities in which residents and citizens live, your ability to self-govern, to make decisions about your own community are completely hampered. The very fabric of these communities can be undermined because people simply don't know what's going on and how to follow what's going on within the city halls, within school boards, within police stations, and so forth.
Now, when looking at the number of news outlets by population, they say Southwest Washington has the least coverage for its population size. Well, we had some questions about that one because many Portland area news outlets cover Southwest Washington, including all of the TV stations. But the researchers said they only included outlets located in Washington state that primarily serve a Washington audience. The researchers say the news desert crisis is coming from a few fronts. Advertising revenue going to big tech companies like Google and Meta. News outlets have been slow to respond to changes in technology and how people get their news. And there's less trust in the media, and news outlet ownership is shifting. The researchers say about a third of Washington's news outlets are owned by out-of-state national chains. They say the journalists they talk to are feeling the pinch.
One thing that really hit home with me is how precarious the profession can be. So we heard different interviewees say how the journalism pipeline has cracks, where you have difficulty, where a news organization might have difficulty recruiting or retaining journalists, in part because the salary is low sometimes, and it makes it difficult for a journalist to live in the place where they work, which of course has implications for their ability to get to know the community in which they're reporting on and things of that nature. We also heard how passionate journalists are about their work and how they view it as a vocation. And yet, some of them interviewed said that they had to leave the profession for a period of time because they just couldn't afford to stay in it.
The researchers say it's up to the whole community to treat journalism like it's part of the local infrastructure because everyone benefits.
There's a lot of distrust in the news media right now. What we do see is that there is greater trust in local journalism than there is in national journalism, that it matters if journalists are seen in their communities and they're seen as members of those communities. And I think it's also important to say you don't have to like local journalism to benefit from it. Local journalists hold public officials accountable. Even if you don't subscribe to your paper or you don't watch the nightly news, you benefit from that watchdog role that journalists play in ways that we often don't recognize. Again, journalism isn't something we have to like or love for it to serve us in meaningful ways in communities.
Well, now it's your turn to weigh in. If you watch this show, you obviously consume local news and enjoy our deeper dives. But give us your take on the local news landscape, both in the state of Washington and right here in Oregon. Email the story at kgw.com or call and leave a voicemail, 503-226-5090. Well, we are now just hours away from the new Real ID law going into effect nationwide. What you need to know before your next trip to the airport, and why you do not need to panic yet if you don't have one. The Supreme Court is allowing the Trump administration to enforce a ban on transgender people serving in the military while legal challenges proceed. A judge in Washington had imposed a nationwide hold on the policy. Challengers of the ban say it violates the Constitution's 14th Amendment, while the Trump administration argues transgender service members hamper military readiness. According to Defense Department data, there are more than 4,000 transgender people currently serving in the military. Well, the race is on for many to get a real ID before tomorrow's federal deadline. People were waiting in line to get theirs today. The cards will be needed to board a domestic flight and gain access to some federal buildings and facilities. Enforcement, however, is not expected to begin immediately. That's according to the Transportation Security Administration, who says travelers without a real ID will still be able to fly for now, but may have longer wait times at airport checkpoints. If you don't have one yet, check the DMV for appointments.
The wait sucks if you don't have an appointment. It's like a month out to get an appointment. Get an appointment if you can. If not, you're going to need to get here as early as possible.
In Oregon, a real ID costs $30 more than a regular license. To get one, you need to follow the 1, 2, 3 rule. Bring 1 proof of identity, 2 proofs of address, and allow 3 weeks to get your card. If you don't yet have a real ID or don't plan on getting one, a few other IDs can be used instead. They include an enhanced driver's license, like the ones issued in Washington state, a passport or U.S. passport card, a trusted traveler card, a permanent resident card, or an ID issued by a federally recognized tribal nation. Now, if you still have questions about the real ID, text them to us using that number right there on your screen, 503-226-5088, and we'll sort through all your questions. And tomorrow morning, we'll bring you the answers to get you ready for the summer travel season. It starts at 9 a.m. on our TV app, KGW+. We'll have team coverage at airports across the Pacific Northwest. And to watch, you can download the free KGW+ app on Roku, Apple TV, or Fire TV. Well, that is the end of our show, folks. Thanks so much for watching. The good stuff is coming your way next. And don't forget, everyone has a story to tell. Have a great Tuesday night. I'll see you right back here tomorrow night at 6:30.